So my work is full of non-human species. Because we're talking about aliens. But then I started writing what I certainly considered to be very science-based stuff, which was still all about the non-human viewpoint, whether it's sort of alien, or kind of uplifted Earth species aliens. So, that's kind of the thing I'm interested in. I like reading stuff about interesting aliens. I like writing stuff about from the point of view of things that aren't humans. So that was always going to be where I went, no matter what corner of the genre I write in.
But in the case of something like Children of Time, you have an alien that is born from the manipulation of humans. So in a way, it's like you're getting this human experience, but projected onto an alien species because of what's the term? I think it's uplifting, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to touch on that a little bit? Just how you, if anyone hates spiders, just check out for a few minutes. Right now.
Well, I mean, I will say I've been contacted by a fair number of arachnophobes saying that they hate spiders a lot less since they read the book.
Oh, that's great.
So, I feel I've saved a few spider lives through my writing. So in Children of Time, you have a world where there's an uplift project, and instead of the expected monkeys, which due to a tragic explosion failed to get delivered, the uplift nanovirus works on spiders and ants and a variety of other invertebrates. In the sequel, Children of Ruin, there are octopuses, a minor spoiler, which are really weird. And there's also an actual alien in there as well. And then there's a third book that's coming out toward the end of this year as well, with even more stuff in it. And yes, it's all to do with exploring the viewpoints of the non-human. I mean, I've written a number of books, and I'm continuing to write books where this is my focus because it's the thing that interests me. I am just working up to doing a full-on sort of alien ecosystem perspective book, which I'll probably be working on towards the back end of this year. So which it is definitely, I think, if you, so here is the thing. Here is the where I feel the dividing line is between. So the aliens from my aliens in Shards of Earth, which is chock full of alien sort of species and cultures and so forth, and the aliens I will be writing and the aliens I have written. Aliens are alien. Aliens are not people who are not basically cat-like humans who act a bit like cats and a bit like humans, as you see there are an inordinate number of cat aliens for some reason.
And the theater
Aliens are
production
not
cats, of course.
Yeah, aliens are not humans with big lumpy foreheads and a very limited range of emotional responses. Aliens are alien, and if you're doing it as a hard science fiction approach, then you kind of need to have them as alien and think through, well, what is an alien? Where do they come from? How do they evolve? If you're dealing with a space opera approach, they can be all of the things I've mentioned. They can be cat people. They can be people with lumps. They can be people with big kind of rubber heads bought from the local Halloween store. Because that's not where the focus of the space opera story is. You can also have perfectly genuinely alien aliens in space opera as well. It doesn't in any way exclude them. But I'd say it doesn't actually demand the thought experiment that a hard science fiction book kind of does demand, because you're not working to the same rules and the same restrictions.
That's very true. And yeah, that has actually gotten me thinking so much about how space opera has been influenced by the visual medium of television and films, and how what you just said, immediately in my head, I'm thinking, okay, Star Trek, check, Star Wars, check, the original Battlestar Galactica. No, that was robots and stuff. Doctor Who is definitely one that goes in there, but it's just this direction of focus
Yeah,
that the
that's
genre
exactly it.
doesn't necessarily necessitate in a way, but allows breathing room for. So space opera allows authors to focus on different things and direct the lens towards different focal points, as opposed to the thought experiments that you brought up, and getting into more of the biology or the science of it, and that kind of thing.
I mean, yeah, it opens a space for a whole range of stories that would be quite difficult to tell if you're trying to be very strictly scientific about things. Because,
Mm,
I mean, if you look at, let's say, space opera setting, they were like, here's our space empire, and here is this a space empire, this is a space empire, and we all have roughly equivalent technologies, and we have this kind of Cold War going on, and we have lots of interesting politics and espionage and all these things. None of that really makes a great deal of sense in terms of hard science. I mean, just having three cultures that are able to interact on a human level is kind of bizarre, but it's the meat and drink of space opera, and it's what makes a lot of space opera stories interesting. Is you can have those, and you don't need to kind of fret about, well, how did this come to pass, and so forth, and
hmm
invent some weird alien Earth species to gloss it all over or something like that.
Yeah, and yeah, that's perfect, because there is obviously an economy of words that authors have to take into account when they're writing. And it's like, do you dedicate more time towards the scientific explanations? Obviously, not to the point of just grandiose info dumping or anything like that, but keeping the reader engaged in a certain way and tickling a certain itch, whether it be the science or the biology of it, whether it be the geology and the planet and what gave birth to an alien species like that. And then I'm thinking of Jenny and Jonathan, both of your novels, where there is um, a lot more focus on the human experience within these alien environments. Jonathan, uh, whether it's planets, far-flung planets, or Jenny, in your case, whether it's a ship, and you have these different environments and how the humans interact with them, and how that in turn manipulates their way of thinking. Jenny, do you want to jump in on that and just sort of talk about like the human experience within space opera?
Yeah, so in my series, there's really only in the first two books at least one alien species, and then there's sort of two hybrid species that were created a long time ago between humans and this alien species. And that's really the extent of it. And, that was purposeful as far as keeping, the thematic threads going. I won't get too deep into it for spoiler reasons, but, it was an intentional choice. And the idea is kind of like, which this was very much inspired by Battlestar and Mass Effect and things like that. But like they use a lot of that alien technology, and even though those aliens are extinct and not around anymore, it's their technology is everywhere. It's their ships, it's their FTL drives, it's you know almost everything that they encounter on a daily basis was derived from these alien technologies, and they wouldn't be where they are without it. So it's definitely an interesting thing to look at as far as how do these interactions. We usually think of like, oh, we have first contact and then they're always part of their life after on. But what if you have first contact and then they're gone and you're still left with the remnants of these? How does humanity take what they've learned from this species and grow or regress or fight about it, or who knows? There's a lot of different options you can take. So that's kind of what I like to play with as far as like playing with, a trope that you are used to seeing, but how can we kind of twist it and do something a little different with it?
And like you mentioned, the gene pool has been tainted, so to say, and how that changes people's perspectives of other um, crossbreeds, other uh, people within their own species. It's like this game of, what's your perspective on the aliens, and then what's your perspective on these humans that have been mixed with them, like gene spliced, and that kind of thing, and how that comments on the division that we see within our own lives and our own world, but how that's translated out into space.
Yeah, definitely.
And Jonathan, what about you? Do you want to get in on this?
Yeah. So I'm really interested in the human experience. And what I like, I realized something I was thinking about today. And in reflecting after having the 3 books run their course, I realized that I like to write close POVs in expansive settings. And I think that space opera gives me the ability to take a character-driven approach, but planet hop. And I'm not particularly drawn to the spaceship experience. For me, space opera is about being able to move from planetary setting to planetary setting. That's what excites me as a writer. I still do have spaceship environments and scenes, but not really big battles. But I think that for me, the interest is about placing humans in different environmental and just sort of ecological conditions, and have there be some kind of conflict. And whether that conflict is, like Adrian was saying, a disparity between, let's say, technological, in a certain society, a technological capacity or access to technology between different cultures, even in the same places. That's what really excites me about working with that human experience. And depending on where you are and what you're surrounded by, whether it's environment or socioeconomic conditions, you end up being able to kind of describe a number of different things within the same book. And that's something that I think really excites me about the human experience in space opera, is having the ability to throw people into all kinds of different settings, and move from place to place. I'm sure you want to talk, it sounds like you want to talk about FTL down the road and at some point. But I'm not a hard science fiction writer. Full disclosure, I'm soft sci-fi. I love reading hard science fiction space opera. I really enjoy it, partly because it's always a learning process for me, but I don't have that knowledge. So for me, FTL is an ability to move me from place to place and to put people in conditions.
As opposed to getting into the nitty-gritty of how that FTL works.
Yeah, don't ask me ever how that works. It just works.
I have not done my research.
Just push the button. Yeah.